So first, in the CSS, let's tackle the display type. Now by default, a link, as we've learned, is the inline display type. We could change this to a block, but what we probably want is an inline block like we have here in the header. So let's change the display to inline block. Now it looks like the font size might be a little bit different, but once these are all capital letters, I'm guessing it will look more close to this. However, it does look bold. So let's start by making this all caps with text transform, and we'll change it to uppercase, and we'll change the weight to bold. It could be that that's a little too heavy, but we'll find out soon enough. And while we're here, let's change the background color. I'll go ahead and use our color picker. And instead of setting the background color directly to that here, let's create a new variable for this color to add it to our color palette. So I'm going to jump to our variables.scss file, and I'll add a new color, green. Now if this was a darker green or a lighter green, I might not want to start with just green, but I'd go with a similar naming convention to what we have with our grays. But this looks like a good middle of the road green. And then I'll paste in the hexadecimal value. I'll jump back to our button partial, and here for our background color, we'll use green. Now let's also tackle the padding while we're here. So to the top and bottom, let's do a quick measurement. We'll have something like 12 or 13 pixels. Let's call it 12 pixels for now, but let's convert it to REMs. So we'll do px to REM, we'll pass it 12. And then for the right and the left padding, let's measure that. It's gonna be about 40 pixels. So let's use the px to REM, and we'll pass it 40. Okay, let's save this and refresh in the browser. Hey, not bad. Our coloring is off, but our box is about the right size, and our text is about the right size as well. So now, because this is an anchor tag, we can style the different states, the hover state, the active state, and we've done that before. So what I'm gonna do is jump over to a components partial file, and I'll copy this set of pseudo selectors here to use in our button.scss. Now before, we use the A tag over here in our site header, for example, to use before the pseudo selectors, but we can also use a class name like we're doing here. And what we'd want to do is just change the value. Again, we're going to use our variable white, just in case we decide white needs to be a little bit different at some point. Let's refresh. Okay, looking closer. We need to remove the underline, so we can do that with the text decoration CSS property like we've done before. And this is looking a little too bold now that we're seeing it as white against a green background. So let's change the font weight to what's been our medium kind of font, which is 400. We'll save this and refresh. Okay, looking good. Now, something I'm noticing here is that it seems like the padding underneath the text is bigger than the padding on the top. And I was noticing that here too with the home link. So what's happening here? Well, if we inspect this element, we can see, if we look closely, that there's a little space below this text, maybe 2 or 3 pixels, that's part of the text itself before the padding gets applied. Now the reason for this is that this text can have lowercase letters that have a tail, like a Y or a G, and that would go to the bottom of this bluish box here. Since we're using all caps, however, the text isn't reaching that low, so we'll have to correct for that in some way. So let's do that by changing the bottom padding value. Now if we go over here, we're using the padding shorthand, and we're setting the top and bottom padding here and the left and right here. We'll now have to extend this, so we use all 4 values. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in. So now we're setting the top, right, bottom, and left values. So the bottom is the one that needs to change. Let's drop it by 4 pixels to see if that solves our problem. So we'll set it to 8. We'll go back to the browser and refresh, and it looks more tight here. Okay, since we've dealt with the rounded corners before, let's add that styling here with border radius. Now with our home active styling, we used a 0.2 EM radius. Let's use that here and see if it works well for us. Save this and refresh. That looks good.